Hey everybody, welcome to my weekly Source and Soul. This is for the week of January 18th through 24th. It was a good week. I had some good sales and I had a really interesting experience with Poshmark and combining orders. If that's something you have experienced or have heard about but haven't experienced yet, definitely stick with me. I'm going to talk about what that was and how it worked for me when I get into everything I sold. But I'm also going to tell you about some of the favorite pieces that I picked up and that I sourced during the week last week. If you are new here, my name is Malika and I am a relatively new part-time reseller. As a part-time reseller, I purchase or find different goods to sell, and I sell all of my pieces that I pick up on Poshmark primarily, but also have started cross-listing to eBay, Mercari, and Depop. I mainly focus on women's clothes. I also do some men's clothes and some children's clothing, but I do a little bit of accessories, but the primary items that I pick up are women's clothes. So I did not do a ton of sourcing last week. I did have an online sourcing that I shared in a video last week that I got from Goodwill Blue Box. But in terms of the things that I'm going to share with you today, actually none of them were from that. I did do a little bit of my own sourcing at my Neighborhood Savers, and my favorite items came out of those two hauls. So I am going to go ahead and get into it. And these are the top 5 things that I sourced during the week of January 18th. So starting off with my top 5 pick, this was a solid bread and butter for me. This is in Abercrombie & Fitch, multicolored striped V-neck knit sweater. You can see it is just in really great condition because it is new with tags, and this retailed for $68. So it is not like super high end Abercrombie, but a solid pickup. And because it's new with tags, I picked this one up. I feel pretty confident. It's interesting because Savers actually had this priced pretty low. They usually will price up Abercrombie, but they didn't on this one. I think I got it for about $7 with my 20% off, but I think this one will probably sell for about $25. So this is my number 5 pick, this new with tags Abercrombie V-neck sweater. My number 4 pick, and if you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I love to pick up Halara. These are Halara, and that's what the tag looks like. Halara pull up denim pants in a gray. And one, I love picking up Halara. It sells really well for me. It sells quickly and at a solid price. I usually sell Halara anywhere between $25 and $30. I was excited to pick these up because of the color. I like to follow what's going on fashion-wise, what like the trends are, what they are saying is coming for the upcoming year. That's something I paid attention to long before reselling. So I really like to see what's happening. And one of the things that I'm hearing across the board is that we're moving away from black in 2026, and there's more of either a faded black or gray in denim. So that's why I was excited to pick these up. So I'm really interested to see how these are going to perform. But I love picking up Halara regardless. It just has become a favorite and definitely a solid bread and butter for me. So this is my number 4 pick of what I sourced during the week of the 18th. Okay, moving on to my number 3 pick. I'm super excited about these. This is another thing that I will always pick up. Barrel jeans or barrel pants, and these super excited about are Paige. Paige, if you're not familiar with this, is a premium denim brand, and Paige retails typically for in the low 200s, and these are barrel leg style, which right now everybody is all about barrel leg pants. These are really high quality. The color is what they call the blonde sand. So this is feels like a really good color going into the spring as well. So I really do actually like picking up Paige. I've sold Paige skinny jeans in the last couple of months. I mean, Paige is a good performer for me, but to find them in a barrel leg is super exciting. And these are, I don't think they've even been worn. I did wash these, and once I washed them, they just became incredibly soft, and there's like nothing on the hem, like no distress at all. So I don't even think these have been worn yet. So I'm really excited about this pickup. And this is my number 3 from what I sourced during the week of the 18th. Moving on to my number 2, I found at the same place as everything else these Stuart Weitzman block kitten heel pump. You can see this, and then they have like a little bow detail on these. So if you are not familiar with Stuart Weitzman retails, like a Stuart Weitzman pump will retail for $500. And interestingly enough, my Savers had these listed for, or they had these on sale for $5.79, and I had a 20% off. So I got these for 20% off of $5.79. These are like a shoe that retails for several $100s. These are in incredible shape. There is no wear on the side or in the toe. You can see that they were worn. There's wear here, but they are in fantastic shape. There's not even, I don't even know if they may have had them resold or something. Anyway, I looked at comps. Stuart Weitzman doesn't seem to resell, or doesn't hold its value in the resale market. I don't know why, because they are a really high-end shoe. But given that I paid less than $5 for these, this was an easy pick for me, because I still think that they'll go for like 40 or so, but we'll find out once they sell. I'm willing to hold out for these two because they're Stuart Weitzman, and they're in incredible condition. So these are my number 2 pick for what I sourced last week during January 18th, the week of January 18th. And my number 1 pick for what I sourced are these Men Hoka, I think these are called the Sky Float shoes. So I did a little preliminary cleaning up on these. They're still a little dirty. I'm gonna get the bottoms, but these are in amazing shape. Even though they're dirty, the tread is still pretty much all there. Hoka, they also are a very expensive brand, but unlike the Stuart Weitzman, hold their resale value way better. So I expect that I'm going to be able to list these for around 70, 75, and hope to get somewhere between 50 and 60 for them. So this was my number 1 pick for what I sourced during the week of January 18th. So it was small amount, but some really good finds, and I'm excited to see how they perform. So with that, let's go ahead and move into what sold last week. I had 14 sales last week, which feels pretty good. As a relatively new reseller, having 14 sales in 1 week feels pretty good. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with what sold for me on January 18th. I had 1 sale that day. So surprise, surprise, I sold some Halara pants. These were a Halara Flex denim high-rise jean that were blue and new with tags. I actually featured these during my video last week about what I sourced and sold. I sourced these pants along with another pair of Halara. I think I had actually 3 pair of Halara last week, but they had another pair that was new with tags like these, and feel great about these. These sold for $28. They were listed for 1 day. And now that I've sold several pairs of Halara pants, I think anything between 25 and 30 feels really good for me with Halara. And so these again they were listed for 1 day. They sold for $28. My earnings on these were $22.40, and my cost of good all in, so how much I paid and what, including the taxes, was $6.68. So my profit on these pants was $15.72, which is really great, particularly flipping it in 1 day. So that was the 1 sale I had on Saturday. On Sunday, I had 4 sales, which included the combination sale, which I'm going to get into and explain about with Poshmark. But before that, I sold the Sorel Joan of Arctic winter boots. These were a really amazing find that I found at the end of December at the bins. And these were just, they were in incredible shape. They were actually, there was no flaws in these at all. I think they were probably barely worn. You could see the tread on them was fully intact, but I would keep an eye out for these boots or any of these types of boots. I like selling Sorels. Sorels move quite fast and they sell at a good price. But these boots I think retail for 240, I want to say. But I had these listed for 17 days before they sold. They sold for $65, which was amazing. My earnings on that from Poshmark after they take out their 20% was $52. And all in cost of goods was $4.34. So my profit on these was $47.66, which yay, that felt really great. So these were actually probably my they were my highest seller of last week as well as my most profitable sale of last week. The next item that I sold on the 19th were these Everlane white straight leg crop pants that were new with tags. Everlane, I definitely like to pick up Everlane. I don't pick up everything Everlane. I have a feeling, and what I've heard from other retail resellers is that Everlane, used to probably move a lot better. I'm kind of wondering if Quince has taken Everlane's place. They're a similar type of brand, like both into like sustainability, use a lot of sustainable materials. I've actually heard in outside of the reselling world that Quince has definitely taken a lot of Everlane's the lane that they were in for clothing. So anyway, but they sold, I'd had them listed for quite some time. They were listed for 74 days and they sold for $25 and my earnings on these was $20. My cost of goods, I paid a little bit more for these. This was definitely early in my time as a reseller. One of my earlier thrifting trips, I paid $9.96 for them. So my profit was $10.04, which profit is always good. It's interesting, just they sat for a long time. I'm not sure I would pay that much for a pair of Everlane again. And especially, I think, they were new with tags. So, maybe I would buy these at the regular thrift store, but probably not for how much I paid for them again. Okay, my next one sale on the 19th were these Beyond Yoga leggings, which I did also featured these last week because they were in the same haul as those Halara pants that I sold the day before. These sold for $30 and I had them listed for 2 days and so I sold them for 30. My earnings on them were $24 and my cost of goods on these were I spent $8.52. So my profit was $15.48. This was a really great pickup. I have to admit in the past I'd seen some Beyond Yoga before and I passed on them, but I will not pass on them again. They definitely seem like a pretty popular athletic wear item or piece. So really happy about how these performed for me for sure. Okay, the next item is an interesting story about the combining. So if you have heard about combining, the new feature, and I didn't know this was new because I'm new, so I didn't know that combining orders that were separate, like a buyer can combine orders, is a new feature with Poshmark. But I heard another reseller sharing that this is a new feature, but I experienced it apparently really early on. So I want to go ahead and share with you what my experience with this was. So anyway, so this buyer bought this sweater, which I want to say also a really great bins find from that same bins haul that I got the Sorels, but this luxury premier collection cashmere blend hoodie. This was just like this really soft, fantastic hoodie. And they paid $28 for it. So I'll get into all the numbers around this one. So they paid $28. My earnings were $22.40 and my cost of goods on this is it was a bins haul and I always do my average cost of goods from that particular bins haul, which was $1.89.
And I had it listed for 30 days. There was so much interest on this across all of the different platforms, but ultimately sold on Poshmark. So the person who bought this, she bought it and she had also liked another item, which I will move to next. This item, this New Day cream.
Hey y'all, it's me from the future. I am in the process of editing this video and I'm realizing that my explanation about combining these orders is really long. So wanted to give you a heads up that this is going to be a long explanation. So if you want to fast forward to about the 21 and a half minute to 22-minute mark of this video, if you have no interest in knowing about combining orders on Poshmark, go ahead and jump to minute 21 and a half or 22, and then it picks back up where I left off with what I sold and all the information on there. Okay, bye.
Knit ribbed cardigan. And so when she bought the last one, the cashmere hoodie, what I always do when a buyer makes a purchase from me, I always email them immediate or message them, not email, but I message them and just, thank them for the purchase and let them know when I'm going to be shipping it, and let them know, reach out if you have any questions. So I did that with this buyer, and she replied back and said, thank you. Can you add on the other sweater to this package so I only have to pay shipping once? And I'd never had anybody ask that before. And I was like, oh, shoot, she should have put this in a bundle. So I don't know if she's a new buyer too, but I mean, it was like pretty immediate that she wanted to put these two things together. So I said, okay, well, I'm not sure. So I'll reach out to Poshmark. And are you okay with me? I just like always want to get people's consent before I bring Poshmark into our conversation. Cause I've had a couple of people try and scam me, which maybe for another video, but I am all about like bringing Poshmark into the conversation that we're messaging on in case they're trying to do something funny. So I didn't really feel I had that feeling about this woman, but still, it's just like, I have no problem bringing Poshmark into the conversation. So I brought them in, and they instructed me actually to do something different. They actually instructed me to cancel it. And I know that Poshmark is suspending people if they cancel too many things. And so I'm really leery about canceling things if I don't have to. So I'm wondering if this combining thing is so new that Poshmark person didn't even really know about it. But I was like, okay, I'm going to hold on this, and I'm not going to do that quite yet. So I went on the frequently asked questions on Poshmark, and I saw on there the option to, like, if you want, you can combine an order if the person purchases the second one within 24 hours. Then it gives you an option to combine the two orders. So I was like, cool. This is much better than trying to cancel, because that would cause me potentially a ding. And so I go back into the conversation, and I let the buyer know that they can, if they purchase the other sweater, which is this one, within 24 hours of the other purchase, then there is a way for me to go ahead and combine them. I said, but, and this is the important thing you also want to let a buyer know if they ask you this, is that, but they're going to have to pay the additional charge for the shipping up front. And then once it's all combined and packaged, then they actually drop off the fee. So I explained that to her. This buyer was amazing. She was fantastic. And so she was like, okay, yeah, no problem. Okay, so I was like, this is what I'll go do. So please go ahead and purchase it. She purchased it. And I'll go back to the instructions. And I think this is still Poshmark working out their kinks, which this has been worked out. But just really quickly, my experience is like the instructions told me to follow this banner and that there should be a banner at the top and you can select it. And it kept not working. Like, so I saw the banner. So if you go into, and I can't really show you where I went, but when you go into your sales and you click on that particular sale, at the top, there's a little small banner running across the top of it that says, this item is eligible to be combined, and do you want to combine it? And so You click on that, and then what will appear is the item or items that you can combine in the order. And so sure enough, when I started with the hoodie, it showed, I clicked it, it had that banner, I clicked on it. It then showed me this sweater as available to combine. And so I clicked on it to combine. And then when I went to select to finish the combining of it, it kept telling me that one of the items was not eligible to combine. So I was like, what is going on? So I tried multiple times. It would not work. I let the buyer know. I was like, hey, this isn't working. I know. And I told her I was going to ship it that day. And we were getting later in the day. I was like, I'm not going to be able to ship this. This isn't working, but we'll keep communicating with Poshmark to see what's going on. So again, Poshmark was in our conversation. So I'm like, I'm like, hey, at Poshmark support, need your help here. This isn't working. And so then they came back into the conversation a few hours later. I will say Poshmark support, they're relatively quick in terms of their response time, which I like. But she came back into the conversation and she told me that I can't combine it until 24 hours has passed since the second item goes in, which is so interesting. So you've got two things happening at the same time. You've got the buyer, in order to be able to combine it, has to purchase their next items. They have to be purchased within a 24-hour period. But as the seller, you can't do the combining until at least 24 hours has passed since the buyer purchased the last item that is to be combined. So that is really important. And if you know that, will save you a lot of energy, because as soon as that 24-hour mark passed from this item being purchased, I was able to do the combining. I don't know if this is how it's going to stay, or they're still working out the kinks, but I will say it's a good thing that you can do this combining thing. But it is like a little bit of a little complicated, and you need to just follow certain steps. So I would say if you have a buyer who asks for this, stay in communication with them the whole time. It ended up being, this buyer was like super appreciative of me being in communication with them. I sort of put it as, because again, I didn't know this combining thing was new, but I was like, hey, I'm new to this, so thank you so much for your patience with me. But it ultimately all worked out. Like, it was really great. What it did is, after it did allow me to combine it, then it basically restarted the label process again. So it creates a brand new label that then both of these pieces were associated with the same order. So that was an interesting one and exciting on that. But what I will say is, with this one, going back to just the sale, is this, cute little ribbed cardigan sweater that is a Target brand. So it's a new day. And I've talked about this before. I am not afraid to sell Target, kind of like selling Target, but this was, certainly for the fall and winter, just a basic good look. And this one actually sat in my closet. Let's see, was listed for a while, good 48 days before it sold, and it sold for 14. I don't think Target pieces are really always going to sell particularly high, and I didn't really expect it to. This is just one of those items that I know is a good style base, and it's going to move. So it sold for 14. My earnings on it was $11.05. My cost of goods on this was $5.67, which is a little high. I probably wouldn't have paid that much for this sweater again, but that's okay. And then my profit on this was $5.38. And so the combined profit on the two items that this person purchased was almost $26, which for the two feels pretty dang good, especially since the other one was a bins purchase that I paid $1.89 for. Okay, so we are now again into the 20th. So my next item I sold on the 20th, and I had a total of 3 sales on the 20th, was this Enzo Mantovani 100% cashmere v-neck sweater. This was a really beautiful sweater. I don't know that the pictures really did this justice, but this sold on eBay, and I had this listed on for quite some time. Like the total amount of time this was listed was 64 days. It was not on eBay that long. It was on eBay actually for maybe a couple of weeks because I listed this on eBay when I started cross selling using Nifty, but it sold for $27. And my earnings on this, because I think used the promoting tool, but my earnings on this was $16.76. My cost of goods on this was $8.35. So my profit was $8.41 on this. My next sale on the 20th were these Mark Fisher T-strap Block Hill pumps. Not gonna lie, I almost kept these for myself. I actually bought a similar shoe for myself last summer during the Nordstrom anniversary sale that were patent leather. They were these, but they weren't T-strap. These are so much better than the shoe I bought. I was actually gonna switch it. I was gonna like try and resell my shoe and keep this one, but I was like, never mind. I'll just go ahead and resell these. But this was a really nice, well cared for, pre-loved shoe. And I had this one listed for a total of 43 days. Like this is another situation where it actually sold being on eBay for a lot shorter period of time because this was when I moved into the cross listing. So I think it was on there for like maybe a couple of weeks, but they sold for $54, which is fantastic. My earnings on this was $43.62 and my cost of goods were $11.04. I really like selling Mark Fisher. I have like one or two other pairs currently listed. I've sold a pair or two before. I know I personally like wearing Mark Fisher. They're a really nice brand and they're leather shoes typically. I don't think these may not have been real leather. I didn't mark it in the listing, so they probably weren't, but they usually are. So they're a really good quality shoe. So I paid $11.04. Total profit for these was $32.58. Super, super happy about that. Fantastic. Okay, so moving on, that was the end of my sales for the 20th. On the 21st, I had one sale, and it was this Golden State Warriors hoodie, and it is something easy certainly to find here in the Bay Area, but this one was great because it was new with tags, and this one I bought pretty early in my thrifting too. This one actually was listed for 80 days, sold on Poshmark. So it was where I originally listed it. And I was actually quite surprised because I bought this during basketball. Basketball season had just started when I bought this. I was like, oh, this will go quick. This is like a nice hoodie, brand new with tags. But no, it's still sold during basketball season, which is great. But sold this one for $25. And so my earnings on this was $20, and my cost of goods were $8.83. My profit $11.17. My next sale was on the 22nd, and I had two sales on the 22nd. This was another bins pickup. I think I picked this up from my very first bins haul ever. This is a J. Crew authentic fleece quilted quarter zip, and this is another one I thought would have gone faster but didn't. Interestingly enough, I went during Christmas time, went into J. Crew, and these were still on the racks at the J. Crew factory outlet, and they were retailing at J. Crew for $130. I was amazed. J. Crew can be pretty expensive even at the outlets. Yeah. So this was like $130 fleece, and it sold for $28, which for me, I was absolutely thrilled about. My earnings on this was $22.40, and my average cost of goods on that binge haul was $2.34. And so my profit was $2.06 on these. $20.06, much better. $20.06 on this fleece. My next sale on the 22nd was on eBay, and it was this Free People Moonbeam cardigan. This photos don't do this justice. I'm really happy that it sold. It was listed for 50 days, but this just had a really cool look to it, really cool knit, and it had some sequins in it, super boho vibe. So I definitely was using like some of the key words around boho and kind of a little bit of a witchy feel, festival vibe in my listing for this one. It sold for $25, so I listed it for 36, but it ended up selling for 25, and my earnings were $19.31. My cost of goods on this was $5.75. I got this at the thrift store. They had it actually for Free People. They usually price up, but I think they thought this one was maybe more worn because it's like it has this intentional distressing around it. But I got it for $5.75. So my profit on this was $13.56. So that ended my sales on the 22nd. On the 23rd, I had one sale. This was another Ben's pickup, the same Ben's haul from, actually, no, different Ben's haul. This was, I think, from my first Ben's haul of the year, my first and only Ben's haul of the year. It's this club room, which is a Macy's men's line. And this was a merino wool polo sweater. Nothing special about this at all. I like picking up, particularly in the Ben's, if it's like 100% cashmere or 100% merino wool and it's in, good to excellent condition. I'm definitely always just going to pick it up, even if it's not like a high-end brand. This one even had a little flaw, as you can see, and I disclosed that. I actually did some repair work on that for the person before I actually shipped it off to him, but I had it listed for $24. It ultimately sold for $18.99. Was thrilled about. My earnings after eBay's fees was $15.44. My cost of goods, my average cost of goods at Ben's haul was $1.46. So my profit on this one was $13.98. Fantastic for me. Okay, so my next sale was on the 24th. I had one sale or two sales on the 24th, which was the last day of the week. My first one, which this is another one like Kalara that's becoming a bread and butter for me. Lauren Ralph Lauren. I definitely really like selling Lauren Ralph Lauren. It's one that it doesn't sell for a lot, but it tends to move pretty quickly. This was a really beautiful wool A-line skirt, and this is great for workwear. Definitely, it was trying to advertise this one for all the girlies who are going into the office. So this one sold for $23. I had it listed for 41 days, and my earnings on this was $18.40. My cost of goods on this was $6.68, and my profit on this was $11.42. And my final sale came at the very end. I actually thought that skirt was going to be my last sale of the week, but then somebody came in at the end of Saturday and purchased this Christian Siriano white linen button down. Christian Siriano, I definitely, have an interest in picking up Christian Siriano pieces. He's definitely a well-known designer. He has his ready to wear that's just sort of the more affordable pieces, which is this is part of. So this isn't one like high-end designer piece, but if the quality of the materials is there, like this was a 100% linen shirt. So a new matching recognizable designer with high quality materials. I felt like this was going to be a pretty good one to purchase. This one took 25 days to sell. Okay, so overall totals for last week were total sales was $418.99, which is my best sales week for this month so far. So I'm happy about that. Yay. My earnings on those sales after all the fees taken out by the different platforms was $330.18. My cost of goods, total cost of goods all in, was $90.94. And that leaves my profit after cost of goods and fees at $239.24, which is better, certainly like a ratio of the profit to sales than I had last week. And it's really good data for me to help figure out how to continue to improve, particularly when I start thinking about other costs that I incur, the cost of my time, because I really am spending probably a good 20 hours a week on this. So this is all really helpful data to help me to see where I need to improve. So additionally, my 14 sales were spread across 10 on Poshmark and 4 on eBay, 0 on Mercari, and 0 on Depop. I'm like, Depop and Mercari have not been good to me yet. So we'll see. I've definitely been trying to get everything I can cross-listed, and almost all of what's on Poshmark is listed across definitely eBay and Mercari, less on Depop, but I'm getting closer to making sure that everything is matching up. The sales really aren't coming through yet, but I'm hoping that they will soon. So that is all I have for today. Thank you for being here, and I hope you'll join me again when I do this next week. I drop these weekly sourced and sold every Tuesday, and I try and do another video during the week, and I am going to do another one later this week about another online sourcing that I'm excited to share about. And if you do like my content, I would love it if you would subscribe. And if you liked what you saw in this video, then give me a like. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments too. What did you source this week, or what were you excited that you sold? Please share in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for being here. And until next time, take care.